Welcome back to the Full Experience, where we watch 4 episodes of a TV show to try to get the sense of what that show is about. We watch the first, the ultimate, the lowest, and the last episode. This week, we are watching the lowest rated on IMDb, episode 2 of season 1, That Would Be Me, which first aired September 21st, 2022. I'm Tom Merritt. He's Brian Brushwood.
Oh, man, I don't want to go first this time because, spoiler alert, I loved everything about this. I was not excited to watch it. I thought it was going to be a slog. I thought it was going to be homework, but I'm going to rattle off all my highest of praise and sing the fact that this whipsawing back and forth, maybe this is the best full experience we'll have ever had, is the pitch I'm going to make.
Well, first of all, I got to acknowledge that Amos pointed out the ultimate episode is Who Are You? And the lowest episode answers it. That would be me. So that's a nice little piece of serendipity. The flashbacks still aren't working for me. They didn't work for me as much in episode 1. And the fact that we started with this one really made me kind of yawn. I don't know if that's because I know they aren't going to tie in to the finale. So I'm like,
well, and also on top of that, you also know that you're not, that whatever this 2 out of 3 adventure that we just experienced is, you're never going to get the ending of. Like because we saw the first episode tee up, we saw the second one advance the story, and then we will never know what happened next.
There is a little bit of whiplash in going from Cass Andor, international man of mystery, infiltrating during a riot, back to Cass Andor, ne'er-do-well guy trying to sell something to somebody else and get off the planet. But this is a nice little standalone story. I'm not sure why it's so low rated, to be honest. Except for the flashbacks, I was riveted. And it's been a while since I've seen it, so maybe that helps. But the tech that Cass is after is a nice little MacGuffin. It is odd that this is going to be the only time we see Luthien in our entire 4-episode run. We get introduced to him, but we will only see him in the previously on, I think, when we go to the finale. The Cyril tie-in was nice, though, especially in our order of watching. We see him learn about Cass. We see him finally meet Cass, and then we see him identify Cass, right? It's a nice little flashback of like, this is when he was after him. I'm a little sad we're not seeing Cyril show up on the planet at this point. The Bix in this version of Andor is different and disconnected, but not bad. I think we might get a reference to her in the finale that might seem a little out of context given these 4 episodes. But what I've seen of her in episode 1 and episode 2 are a fully realized, deep character who's not interested in Cass as far as we know. But definitely, somebody who knows his secrets and knows who he is, and he knows her secrets. And that's interesting. Yeah.
So thinking of this as a narrative experience for full experience. And I think we have to bake in, I don't know that we've discussed this, but I think we're on the same page that if we're judging whether or not the full experience works, we have to factor in the fact that everybody doing the full experience will know they're getting the full experience, right? So Sure. It's like you are intentionally leaving giant chunks in the shadows so that you can pretty much have gotten the story. So in that case, you get the introduction to the world, which we liked very much with Andor. And then you get a bunch of stuff happen and you're like, whoa, this is Pincher's closing. And you're like, hey, that's that guy that was hunting that guy. And then you hear the who are you? And so you get the kind of reveal in that, oh, I guess there's 2 journeys that we follow all the way to this pivotal moment. And in that context, Tom, I loved going all the way back to the beginning. This episode sings knowing how the cat and mouse game of Cyril and Andor ends in a way and also the things that they pay attention to in this second episode are things that were not at all paid attention to in the ultimate episode. The ultimate episode was about this driving, choking, gasping for air, pinchers, closing on you moment. That was great. Reminiscent of, peak friction right before World War II. All of that totally worked. But this air quotes lowest rated episode, which, by the way, I think objectively some of the early episodes in season 2 are far less good than this one. They're working so hard to earn your heart about this place and the characters, meeting Marva, getting more of B2 emo, getting and out of everything, the sound design, so rich and good. The way they take their time with the ringing of the anvil at the beginning.
I noted that one too.
Like I just look at those goosebumps I got just even remembering
great
that.
World building in letting that breathe and seeing that guy's demeanor and attitude. It like really gives you a sense of place. You really get a sense of Cass's family and his extended family now, with the workers and now his home life and all of that. So,
everybody's cozy relationship with kind of omerta, where it's like, oh, I haven't told anyone. What about blank, blank, and blank? Well, they're family. And then like this sort of, there's us and then them. Yeah. And then there's like how much to get to so-and-so. And it's quotes a price. And it's like, well, you want discretion and immediacy? That's a tall ask. And it's like, do I get to rat you out as soon as you go? And then like that kind of, that easy going casual negotiation. You know what it is? It is a social equivalent to what the original Star Wars trilogy brought us, the idea of a lived-in sci-fi universe. At first, it was the design of the beat-up look of the spaceships that felt like everything was so storied. You see the social equivalent of that in this particular episode, maybe a top 5 example of performances, character-driven performances, feeling the most authentically lived in. I mean, it's top notch, I think.
Yeah. And I agree that I bet if I rewatched all of season 1, I would find a couple of these that I would rate lower than that would be me. I'm curious what drove it down, although it's still in the 7s. So it's not like it's particularly far below. It's only 1 point below the premiere episode, which was also low rated. So,
we've also started to sniff out that the way people vote for these things, because depending on this is one of those when you look at the sedimentary rock and you try to carbon date stuff, you have to know, did the series come out before IMDb existed or after? Were they rating it as the episodes were coming out? So second episode would have been kind of peak skepticism of they're on the fence about whether or not to like Andor or not. Whereas I feel like some of the less good episodes in season 2 got a pass just because, they're floating in the warm glow.
Episode 2 of season 2 is only 2 points above this episode 2 of season 1. It's a 7.5 versus 7.3. So it's pretty close. Yeah. Pretty on par there. And our episode 8 definitely held its rating. So I'm glad that that's what we went with, because it has not moved from that. Amos, I don't know if you want to join us and give us perspective, because I know this is your second watching of the season 1 stuff.
I think you guys came so close to nailing it, in my opinion, without actually hitting the nail. The reason I think this episode,
we didn't hit our thumbs.
Yeah, you didn't hit your thumbs, but you didn't hit the nail either. It's kind of just a whiff. I think the reason this one is so lowly rated is because everything that happens in this episode is stuff that you just assume going forward. There's no major events that occur, and every bit of it is just character building to these characters that a few episodes from now, everything that's happened in this episode is just part of the people. It's just them. It's all.
So if you're a plot person, this episode doesn't carry a lot of weight. But if you're a character person, it does.
Right. But then even then, because there's so much more character development that happens, just even within Andor, later on in this series, in this season. This episode is just it's grounding, and I think the series would be worse off without it. But because it's building the characters, it's not something that you think, oh yeah, that was a great episode. But without it, you'd have this hollowness in the characters going
that's
forward.
a really good point, Amos, because when when we think of a story, we of course are thinking of the most memorable parts. I'd say there's virtually no memorable parts about this outside of literally them banging on a gong at the beginning. And with that being the case, it makes sense that it would be rated the lowest. However, having said that, it's pure harmony. It's like, imagine just listening to the backing track and realizing how sublime the backup singers are.
Yep.
Yeah. If you're into world building, if you're into cinematography, if you're into character, there's a lot to love. But you're right to point out, like, there's also a lot to love in all three of those categories in other episodes as well. So it's not like this is the only one. Did anything strike you odd going back and rewatching it?
I forgot how quickly Bix's boyfriend turns on her out of jealousy. It's like we're only on like day 2 of Andor being back on the planet, and he's already like, this dude's got to go. I'm turning him in. It's like,
well, it does seem like he is just at peak getting grabby on Bix, getting possessive, and
possessive,
yeah.
And it's a low tolerance, because Cass hasn't really done anything as far as Bix is concerned. He's only needled her boyfriend, and that's it. Where he's like, "I'm done with this guy. I don't even care if Bix is interested in him or not. I don't like him."
At the same time, though, all of that is building character into these characters that we're going to have on going on. Yeah. But again, it's not an event.
If I'm reading tea leaves into the relationship that is implied as it comes out on here, I can see a scenario where Bix's guardedness in relation to Luthen, her buyer, and her relationship to passing on information of use of the fomenting rebellion could be misread to somebody who's kind of hitting peak infatuation in Bix as, oh, she's always sneaking off. I bet she's talking to Andor or someone else. And so then it ends up coming out just Andor happens to be the catalyst at that one time, just as he's getting peak possessive.
Yep.
Go ahead.
There's also, it is mentioned that Andor's had his run of women. So it's not like he's, of the straight and narrow. He's had women in the past.
He hasn't been pining away for Bix and no one else. Yeah.
Right. So, there's that too. But yeah, again, it's really good.
Did you notice, and this is another tip of the hat to the full experience version of this. We just came off of the ultimate experience, in which we see a manufactured crisis with a real raid team really wreaking havoc and really destroying stuff. In relation, even then, we see Imperial troopers who are green being sent in deliberately to screw things up. And then the contrast with that to the LARPing adrenaline junkies in the Corpo law enforcement, chef's kiss. Like Cyril, because we know how Cyril's story ends, and I think you get enough context if you see the ultimate episode to know that we kind of have two protagonists, and we know that Cyril's trying to do what is right. It is remarkable to see Cyril choke on the raid, because he's so accustomed to everybody being on the take that when he's trying to do what's right, he's accustomed to only resistance. And instead, he gets this total yes man, adrenaline junkie, LARPing, militia man who just says, go for it, and acting like, and you can see Cyril's visibly uncomfortable with it, which pays off with his disgust with having been played And yet again, he gets played from the beginning and the end. It's a perfect bookend. Guys, this is so far 3 out of 4. This is great on the full experience in my book.
Well, we're going to put it to the final test with the final episode of Andor. No disputing that. The final episode of Andor is 212, Jedha, Kyber, Erso. Repeat it, Jedha, Kyber, Erso. That is the name of the episode, and we will watch to discuss next time. And then, as Brian alluded to, we plan to discuss Rogue One to see how nicely it flows out of that final episode in an episode of the full experience bonus after that as well. So, but for next time, Jedha, Kyber, Erso, season 2, episode 12 of Andor. Thanks everybody for supporting this show. You get these episodes earlier if you are a patron. You can thank Amos for that. So go sign up now at patreon.com/Cordkillers to keep the episodes coming, get them early, and support the show. We'll be picking our next thing after Andor in our after talk, which you only get if you're a patron. So go do that, and we will fill you up with the full experience again next time.